I've never made friends on this game. I never went out of my way to go join guilds. I never interacted with people, and if I did have to interact with people, I would do it very minimally.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
My name is Juan in real life. Character name is Lore. Right now I'm a night elf, but actually back in the day I used to play a worgen. When I first started this game, when it first came out, 2004, I was around, I would say maybe 3 or 4. I'm not really good with my numbers. Around that time is when I at least first discovered the game. It wasn't the first time I've had any interactions with any of the Warcraft series. I've actually had past interactions throughout pretty much up to when I was first born. I was born on Christmas around 8 in the morning. My mom had actually gone into labor and nobody was around to drive her except for my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law was the one that completely got me into everything. He got me into computer gaming, got me into gaming in general. He got me into the Warcraft series, into Blizzard as a whole. He was very interested with Blizzard and stuff like that. And so he was really the driving force for me to actually start, playing games in general, just even on a console with a Nintendo or anything, it doesn't matter. The reason why I would say that Warcraft has been with me since my childbirth was he actually took his laptop, and since they didn't allow him in the ER with my mother, he stayed out in the waiting room and played Warcraft 3 up until maybe my sister came. My dad, I think, wasn't around at the time. I believe he was somewhere else. I don't really remember. Nobody told me, at least. And shortly thereafter, I think, is when he had passed away. And so it was pretty much just me and my mom throughout my entire life. My sister was there, brother-in-law was there, and then around 2002, my niece joined us. And so growing up, I wasn't really a demanding child. I didn't really ask for much. I usually just sat around. I didn't really require much attention at all either. I would cry obviously, but I was a very quiet and lonely child. So is my niece as well. We actually grew up like that. And so I would pretty much just sit around with my brother-in-law, and I would always be watching him play something on his computer. It doesn't matter what it was, if it was StarCraft, it was Warcraft 3, and I would just watch him play. He was playing Diablo 2 at the time, I think, but not as much as he played Warcraft 3 and StarCraft. Around when 2004 came out, he got a World of Warcraft subscription because Blizzard made it, so he was a huge Blizzard fanboy, and he would instantly just buy anything that they bought up. That's when I also started to grasp the, what life is pretty much, and I started understanding how things worked at least. I would sit around it and watch him pretty much just play. He also played a night elf. He was since my brother-in-law is Hispanic, he's he's from the bottom part of Mexico. I don't know if anybody knows it. I might just butcher the name by saying it, but it's Oaxaca. That's where he's from at least. And so he played on the the Latin American servers, and so everybody spoke Spanish. I think he played a hunter if I remember correctly as well. And that was his first character at least, and I don't remember if he did reach max level at around vanilla or if he even rated at that point. Still, at the time, I'm a child, and so I can't remember very much from that point in time. Just fast forward maybe around when Cataclysm came out. I was maybe around, I know it came out in 2010, I think, if I remember correctly. I was maybe around 9 or 10 years old. He had gotten back from a business trip from Mexico, brought me over. He wanted me to come over and check out the new expansion, since me and him were the only ones in the house that were interested in playing video games, World of Warcraft in general, because nobody else in our house. Our house was filled with women, and so not in that way, but I had my mom, my sister, my niece, and there was barely any guys in the house. Pretty much, it was just me and him the whole time. I had seen the trailer. He showed me the trailer. He bought the game, and he was like, "Do you want to play?" Because he was gonna go out to work again. That day, I had created my actual first character that I can truly remember on his account, which was a Worgen warrior at that time. And I remember his character name was Deathly Wolf. I was 10 years old, so I thought that name was badass as shit. And then looking back at it now, it was kind of a little funny. That's when I at least started to quest around in the world, because back in 2004 through Vanilla through like Wrath of the Lich King, I didn't do much. All I did was I would make characters all the time, and I would just wander around the world pretty much. I wouldn't do quests. I wouldn't do dungeons. I wouldn't do PvP. I wouldn't even talk to people. People would like come up to me and try to talk to me and try to figure out like what am I doing, and I just didn't. I didn't know how to talk pretty much. Like I didn't know that text chat was there pretty much, and I just didn't know how to control it at all. So this first Worgen character was the seed that planted how I am today, at least. This is when I did dungeons, and I don't think I remember if I did get into max level or not. I was very much close. I think I did get into max level, but I didn't do any end game content. And once I reached max level on that character, if I remember correctly, I would move on to another character. And I can't remember what other classes I did play at the time, but I just remember the one warrior Worgen that I got to max level, and then the other characters I never got to max level at all. Because around this time when I did finish max level, I think the next expansion, which was Mista Pandaria, if I remember correctly, I have a horrible memory, but it had already been announced, and so I was like, well, I'm just gonna wait for that one to come out, pretty much. In Mista Pandaria, I didn't do much either. Like I did dungeons and pretty much the same thing. Quested, got to max level. I didn't do any end game content. I didn't do any of the Isle of Thunder, like the Isle of Giants. Nothing like the one, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I do remember making a panda. I remember making a Pandaren monk, and I think I named it like it's probably some really horrible name, but I can't remember what it's like. Kung something. I can't remember what it was, but and so when Warlords came out, I had again quested, did dungeons, and finally got to max level, but it was Warlords, and so not much was going on at that point. That's when people say that the game was a little bit stale and a little bit boring. That's when instead of making new characters and trying to level them, I stuck to the one Worgen warrior. This Worgen warrior had stuck through the past couple expansions. I took him and I just did old content pretty much, and that's how I got into trying to collect appearances and transmog and stuff of that nature. I'm not really big into achievements, but I'm big into collecting like the cool armor and stuff like that. Like if I play any game, I wouldn't go for weapons or any good gear. I would go a lot for the armor. If armor looked cool to me, I don't care what stats it had. If it was really shitty, I would still use it. I took that Worgen warrior to the old raids, the old dungeons, and I just ran them over and over again until I pretty much couldn't run anymore because of a lockout, and I would have to wait until next week. And I'd do the same process over and over again. At this point too, I was like making a little bit of gold out of it too, because obviously my bags would fill up with all the gear that was dropping. Not as much as other people were making, which at that certain point in time, I didn't care how much gold I was making. I just wanted to get the cool armor that was dropping, like especially from like if it was a warrior, like I wanted to get like the old war armor and stuff like that from Ice Crown. I still think to this day, I think probably the coolest set would have to be probably, I would say maybe tier 1, I think. At least to me would be tier 1 because I like the spikes, and then like a second or third place I would maybe put like the tier 2 from Blackwing Lair. That would be my second favorite. And then third would be from Dragon Soul. That set, the Dragon set, I think is still really cool. I still haven't collected all of it because this is a new character, but I'm in the process of doing that. I can't do Spine of Deathwing pretty much. That's once Warlords of Draenor ended, moved on to Legion, did the same thing in Legion, didn't touch Endgame at all. And then that's around the time when my sister and my brother-in-law moved away. And so I had lost access to the account. And I didn't have my character anymore, so I had to start from scratch. And at this time too, I didn't have my own computer because he took his computer. I was playing on his laptop and his account the whole entire time I was playing World of Warcraft. I completely I just didn't have a job at this point because I don't think I was old enough yet. I was maybe like a year off or a year or two off that I could get a job, but I couldn't pay a monthly subscription. So I know that Christmas they got me a laptop. It wasn't the best laptop. It was kind of shitty. but it was really good at running the older expansions. And so that's when I dove into the private servers and stuff like that. I never liked the fun private servers, and I never liked the Blizz-like servers, the ones that tried to perfect everything to like how Blizzard made it. I like the ones that had like a tiny like XP bump. Like if it was like 5 times or 10 times rate, I would play it, and that satisfied me to the point where I didn't need the actual retail World of Warcraft monthly subscription, but at the same time I was yearning for it. I really wanted a subscription really badly because it's retail and I know they're getting all the updates as soon as it comes out. Not all the allegations that came out from Blizzard, were around at the time, and so Blizzard was still seen as a good company, at least to some people. Some people think that it was dying down because of the really bad expansions. At this point, like there was no sexual allegations and stuff like that. I would say maybe up until like 3 years ago, that's when I finally caved in, and I had gotten a job at this point, so I had bought a decent gaming laptop. I didn't buy a PC. I started off with a gaming laptop, which sounded like a fucking jet engine in my room at least. My room's very small and very compact, but I was finally able to play retail WoW again. I was able to at least go back to where I started. I started a fresh new character, and at this time, I don't even think the all the newcomer changes were coming at Blizzard implemented. None of the newcomer changes were implemented yet, and so I had to start from scratch, brand new again. Nothing, no heirlooms, because I think at this point too, heirlooms still had their XP boost. So no heirlooms, no mounts, like no gold, nothing, pretty much just a scratch account, and that's where the sense of accomplishment kind of overwhelmed me, and I had ended up actually quitting for a bit. Up until I would say maybe early Shadowlands is when I came back to the game. And at this point they added all the newcomer things. I think it was Exiles Reach. It was the brand new newcomer, like the newcomer servers where everybody was new, but you had guides. You had newcomer chat, which like I don't remember what it was you needed to do to get out of it. I think it was like he had to play like 60 hours or something. I can't remember what it was. Like not 60 hours, but it was like 6 hours. And once I got out of the newcomer chat and I got out of the newcomer servers, that's when I started actually playing the game again, because I think the newcomer servers and stuff like that aren't really good, to me at least. And so Shadowlands is when I started getting a little serious. Not serious to the point where I think I can consistently do mythic rating or mythic keystones, to the point where I started at least chasing endgame stuff and doing all that business. I never actually crafted legendaries at all in Shadowlands. I never got to it. I was pretty confused at the time. And this is kind of a funny, like it's really funny too, because I know I was well over the teenage years. I think I was 20, yeah. It was 19, 20. I'm 21 now. It was during COVID, so yes, I was around 19. That's when I started chasing Endgame, and then Dragonflight was announced, and when Shadowlands was in the little season 4 area, I went back to running old dungeons and raids with this character, actually, with the night elf that I'm playing, and that's when I also started leveling up different alt characters that I wanted to play, the different classes that I wanted to play. So I think I have at least one of each class, except for I would say a priest. I don't know why, I just don't like the priest class. To each their own, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like it does consistent damage to me. At least to me. It's my own opinion, but that's how I feel at least. And then Dragonflight came out, and then that's when I'm actually learning how to play the game a little bit better. I'm using keybinds and stuff like that. I'm not clicking my abilities anymore, because this whole entire time, up until Dragonflight came out, this whole entire past timeline, I've been clicking my abilities. And I would move around with. I think people still move around with WASD. I think I would at least try to move around with just my mouse. I started again, like I got a better job, so I started buying. I bought a better keyboard, which I'm not too. I don't think a keyboard does much, but a better keyboard, and I bought a better mouse. I bought the the MMO mouse, the one that has like 12 buttons on the side, and that's what I'm using. Around this time is when Shadowlands first came out. I got this character, the Night Elf. This is my only max level character so far. The other next one is like maybe level 67 because I haven't been playing much at all. I've only hop on to do like maybe like 2 weekly quests, and then I do the weekly dragon kill, and then that's it. I hop off. Maybe like 2 weeks ago, I think I was high enough gear to do a mythic keystone, at least mythic plus. I did like I did two of those for my first time. I was, it was kind enough to where, one of my guildmates was actually able to take me through that. Even though my DPS was dog shit, it was really bad. It was horrible. It was horrid compared to them. Like the people we were running it with, they thought that I was like playing with one arm pretty much. Like I didn't know how to like press buttons or something, or I was falling asleep on the keyboard. I wasn't. I'm really that bad at the game. This is something that I think I've skipped over the whole time. I've never met anybody throughout this whole entire game. I've never talked to anybody. I've never made friends on this game. I never went out of my way to go join guilds. I never interacted with people, and if I did have to interact with people, I would do it very like minimally. I would say maybe yes or no or thanks, or I would send an occasional LOL, and that's it. I wouldn't interact with anybody. I would try my best to not interact with people. So if it was a dungeon, I kind of felt when people say like they don't like the recent expansions because there's no social aspect of it, which I think there still is to a certain degree. It's not as much as classic WoW and Burning Crusade and Wrath at least. I would try my best not to talk to people because again, it goes back to when I was a younger kid. I would always keep to myself. I always made fun for myself. I never went out of my way to make friends. And it's not because I want to be alone. I do like having friends. It's just it was really hard for me at least because I would say I'm very asocial. The game was a way for me to experience a little bit of social life, but not in the way that it was made. The way I was getting to experience social life was playing with other people, at least just playing with them. Like, not going out of my way to talk to them. Like, I think back in Discord is like not a new thing, but I wouldn't talk in Discord chats. I didn't have a headset or a microphone, and I just didn't at all want to interact with people. I was the really quiet one. Anytime I joined a guild, that was very small. Because anytime I did join a guild, it was always a leveling guild. I was always joined those just so I can get the heirlooms and you know things like that. Because they already had all the achievements done pretty much, and so I would just get the mounts, I would get the tabards, and I would get the heirlooms. And then if the guild disbanded or they kicked me out, oh well, whatever. I'll find another one. There's like a million of them, pretty much. The social aspect in this game, at least from what I've experienced, I think it's a lot different than what it was back in the day. Obviously, people were a lot more passionate. The older expansions, especially Vanilla, Burning Crusade and Wrath, and I would say maybe it died around. It died down at least a little bit around Cataclysm. I was still seeing people talk like a lot in trade chat. Well, not. Well, I think everybody talks in trade chat, but people out in the world, pretty much questing and stuff like that, they would be partying up and talking still. At least to me, again, like I'm a very asocial person. I don't like talking to people. Again, it's not that I don't like making friends, but it's a little weird for me. It's very hard to explain. At least I would say it's just a different. It's just the way I think I perceive as fun sometimes is when people sometimes like they like to have fun by going out and watching a movie with friends or going out to eat with friends, which I love doing that too now. At least now in recent days because I have a friend group now. I have a small friend group, like maybe around 4 people. But back in the day, I didn't really in my school I didn't really know many people. I know maybe around 2 people. The only like true friend I think I can say I've had for a very long time is my niece, because my niece and I pretty much grew up like siblings. If there is one thing I can say about, even though I've lived through all the expansions. I've seen how the social aspect has changed throughout every expansion. The one thing I can say, even if you are starting new, I don't think you need to socialize. I think you can have a good time on this game, even if you're just playing solo. Like, I know this isn't a very solo friendly game, but you can have a decent amount of fun just doing stuff by yourself, whether it be professions, um, doing transmog runs, or running dungeons just with random people. Because we have the tools to do it. That's how retail is. We have the dungeon finder, we have the raid finder if you really want to go there. They even have the LFG finder, or the random looking for groups, where it breaks it down into sections like world quests and you know dungeons, old content, mythic keystones and stuff like that. But I think for sure you can have fun here. You can absolutely have hours of fun on World of Warcraft by yourself. Even if you don't have a guild, like I've have a bunch of old characters that all have different guilds, and they're all different leveling guilds, but there are very few people in those guilds that actually talk. Or maybe like 5 out of like the 500 members that they have. There's like maybe like 5 that talk, 5 or 10 if we're lucky in these like leveling guilds. I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, I usually run a macro that turns off text chat, so I never see like what's going on sometimes, if people are talking or not. That's pretty much what I do, at least. I had never felt the need to socialize. Like, I never felt like, oh, like this quest is really hard, I need to get a group. I was just like, nah, I'll just skip the quest and I'll come back later. Or if I'll be lucky enough to at least catch somebody else doing the quest, if they're in my, like, back in past expansions, if they were in my same faction and they're trying to kill like a really hard boss or something out in the world for a quest, I would just hop in, get credit for it, and then leave. I would say I'm maybe a little bit of a roach a bit. I like to get scraps at least, but that's how I progressed through the game, at least back in older expansions. Now anybody can get credit for a kill. Like, it doesn't matter like what you are. After that, the first patch would come out, a new zone would come out, and all the hardcore, like, people above casual would just be all in that new zone, and I'd still be in the old zone leveling, but I had the whole zone to myself. Nobody was there, and I kind of liked it that way, pretty much. It's like it's weird because this game is a big open world, and you know you're supposed to see people out in the world. For me, I'm kind of glad I never saw people out in the world. That's why I never played. I'm not a big PvP player, and so that's why I never played on a PvP server. I always played on a PvE server or an RP server. And even if I was like in recent years with War Mode, I think that was after Battle for Azeroth, I would keep it on because like nobody was around. And even if I did see another player with War Mode on, they didn't touch me and I didn't touch them. It was like a mutual respect. Like, there were no words were spoken, but we saw each other questing, and we were like low levels. Like, I was like maybe level 15 and somebody would be like level 17. We wouldn't touch anybody. We wouldn't even look at each other. We just like we would, exist in peace because we both just wanted to level. I think some people maybe overreact a little bit about the social aspect, which I understand. If you've been playing since 2004 and you see such a drastic change in the social aspect of the game, especially when people don't talk anymore, you don't see people out in the world, and people don't talk in groups anymore to like strategize, and absolutely understand why you would be upset and why this game would suck to you now. It'd be weird, like it'd be the same thing if it suddenly I had to do group content, I had to communicate with people. It'd be the same thing for me. I would think this game would suck. I don't think I'm perfectly fine with doing group content. I don't like nowadays I'm perfectly fine with doing group content. I think if anybody invites me to a Discord call to do a Mythic Keystone, I'd perfectly be fine doing it. It's just I have to like let them know, like, hey man, I'm really shitty. Like, I still click some of my buttons at times. Like, just be patient with me. I have autism and stuff like that. But besides that point, I'm pretty much open to anything. I'm very into gray when it comes to which side I would be on in the argument. If it's a good thing that it's not many people talk anymore, or if it's a bad thing that the social aspect is gone. In this game, coming from a very asocial person and a very casual person, I still consider myself very casual. I would say for people who are looking into getting the game, you should absolutely join in because this game is very fun. It's a special place in people's hearts. It's like a part of them pretty much. I know, but some people cosplay and stuff like people get tattoos. I'm actually thinking about getting a World of Warcraft tattoo, but I'm still don't know what it is, but I'm thinking about doing it. But this game holds a special place in my life. At least it was part of my life pretty much my whole entire life. I plan, if I do ever have kids, I plan on passing this along, at least to whoever it is, my daughter, son, whatever. I plan on passing this game along. Never be afraid that, even you can apply this to life too. Never be afraid to start anything new. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's a new job, if it's a new habit, hobby, never be afraid to start new things in your life, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again every day, it gets very stale. It gets very old quickly. You would get bored. Some people don't like change. I don't like change either. I have to admit, I absolutely get bored if I do the same thing over and over again, which right now I'm kind of in a circle of that. I go to work, I come back home, maybe eat some ramen, drink a beer, and play some World of Warcraft. Never be afraid to at least take a dip into new experiences. If you want to start cooking, do something simple. Do like pasta simple. Pasta is people not many people know pasta is a very simple dish, but it'll once you do it, once you complete it and you make pasta for the first time, you will feel this sense of accomplishment that you'll want to at least keep chasing. It would be, at least to me, I think the sense of accomplishment once I do something for the first time and I do it correctly, I would at least say I would put it in like maybe the top 3 things that I like the most in this world. Maybe like the second would be Mexican Coke, and then the first would be pupusas, if anybody knows what the hell that is, but it's a Salvadorian thing. The the top third thing would be doing something for the first time and doing it correctly. You can find me on Instagram at Juan's Old Jacket, Juan. That's my first name, and then with an S at the end, so Juan's and an Old Jacket. I usually don't post much. I shit post memes or anime. I watch a lot of anime, and then I'll post the occasional food picture because I like cooking a lot, and I'll probably post videos of me playing bass because I play bass guitar in my free time as well. But that would pretty much be it for me.